Okay, welcome back to our lecture. So for today's lesson, we will discuss about uh, how we can lay out a certain design to our app. So like for example, we have given here layout or design on how we are going to construct our application's design. So for example, this is an image, a very huge image. Let me add something here. Shape, and this is an image. And after the image, let's say this is the title. And after that, let's say this is the username, and this is the uh, password. So password field and username field. So very simple layout here, and maybe by the end of the video here we will make our simple application to look just like the wireframe given here. So for us to start our layout, there is a property in CSS that is called flex, and that property is also being used in React Native or in React.js. So for us to use that, we'll use the property flex, and the value is 1. So flex will take out the remaining content or available space here in the screen, and it will occupy all of it. So let's add a background here to tell uh, how much it occupied, so that we'll see. So let's say gray, and then you'll notice that the whole screen has been occupied because we have the property flex. So basically the width and the height or the dimension will be 100%. So let's say we're going to put a text here. Let's say hello world. And next is in flex, there is the way for us to make our elements appear on how they appear in the screen, and that property is called flexDirection. So flexDirection, if you want your component to flow from left to right, or if you want to flow your component from bottom to top to bottom, then you'll be using flexDirection. To make it appear from left to right, then we'll be using row. So right now we don't see anything here, so we'll just add another to view, and style, say background color is, let's say blue, and then the other one is, let's say red. Okay, then let's give them a width of, let's say 100, and height of 100 as well. So same thing for the other box. Okay, so right now we have 2 boxes here. So right now their flow direction is from left to right. But what if we want them to flow from right to left? So in the flex direction, instead of row, we're going to use the value flow reverse. Then you'll see at first the blue box appeared from the left, but right now in row reverse, the blue box appeared on the right. So this means that the flow is from um, right to left. But if you want it to display to flow from top to bottom, then we're using column. And notice that the box appears on the top, but if we're going to use the column reverse, then actually the blue box appear. The starting point is from bottom to top, so that means the blue box appears first, no, because the flow is from top to bottom. So that is on how we are going to flow our components. So what if we are going to align our uh, components from based on their flow direction? What if we're going to uh, put them on center? So to do that, we're going to use the justifyContent property, and then the value is center. So what if we're going to instead, although they are in the flow direction is from bottom to top, what if we are going to set them on the top? So right here. So instead of using center, so we'll be using flex start. So meaning flex start is our the starting point of our flow flex direction. So since we are using flex reverse, then meaning the starting point for the column reverse is the top to bottom to top. But if we're going to set it to flex end, so meaning since the flex direction started from bottom to top, so the end of the flex direction is actually the top. But if we're going to use column, so meaning the the starting point for the column is from top to bottom. But since we've changed we set the justifyContent into flex end, so meaning the end of the column is the bottom, while the start of the column is the top. Okay, so just let me draw something here. So paint. So if we are going to use the flex direction row, so let's say this is the row, and let's say this is our component here. So in flex direction, we have what we called cross axis and main axis. So if we are going to use the row as the flex direction, so row, and if we are going to use the flex start, so we have what we call the main axis here. So in using the flex direction row, we have what we call the main axis, and then the main axis is from left to right. Okay. And another thing is, if we are going to use the row, there is what we call the cross axis here. So we'll discuss more about cross axis, but for now let's focus on the main axis. So let me change this to 20. So this is the main or primary access. So sometimes it's called primary access, while the other access is called cross access or secondary access. Okay. So main or primary access are I mean the justify content. So justify content follows the main access, while the cross or secondary access, we have another property which is align items. Align items. So this property follows the cross or secondary access. Okay. So if we're going to use the row as the flex direction, then if we're going to use I mean the row as the flow direction, and if we're going to align or move our items in the main axis, so that means from left to right, then we are going to use the justify content property. So meaning the start of the row flex direction is from left to right. So you'll notice that the blue box started from the left. But if I'm going to use row reverse, now the direction changes. So right now, we have actually changed the flex direction into row reverse. So in row reverse, as the name says, it is reverse. So let's make a graphical representation here. So row row reverse, that is if we are going to set the flex direction into row reverse. So in row reverse, the main axis is obviously reversed. So if this is the box or the component, then the main or secondary or main or primary axis goes from right to left. As you can see here, when I set the flex start, then the starting point for the row reverse is to from right, and then the end is left. So you'll see here that the justify content will flow from right to left. So the main or primary axis will flow from right to left, while on the but still the cross axis for the row reverse is still the same. So still the cross axis for the row reverse is still the same, so from top to bottom. cross or secondary axis. So if we're going to change the direction in the cross or secondary axis, then you will be using the alignItems. But if we're going to use the direction of the main or primary axis, then you are going to use the justifyContent. Okay, let me add something here. So that's the alignItems, and this is the justify content. Okay. Okay. So again, what if we are going to use the alignItems? So again, the row and then row reverse, the cross or secondary direction is the same. So that means it's from top to bottom. But the difference is the main or primary axis. So for the direction for the main or primary axis in the row flex direction is from left to right. So meaning in justifyContent, the flex start is in the left side, but in the row reverse, the flex start is from the right. So right now, let's try to move our element at the bottom, or I mean we're going to change the cross axis. So to do that, we're going to use the alignItems, and then the value mostly is the same, no? So it could be flex and so you'll see that the cross axis for the either row or row reverse is still from top to bottom. That's why if I start flex end, so the end for the cross axis is the bottom and the start is at the top. Okay, so you can even set it as center to appear obviously at the middle. And right now the alignItems will center it in between the top and bottom, but in the justifyContent, if we're going to center it, it will center from in between the left and right. So center, there you go. So we move the content at the center. So the row reverse and then the row is always the same in terms of center. Okay, so that means that the that will be the what I call that, the in the Cartesian plane, that will be the what I call that, the zero, right? What do you call this? So this is let's say the Cartesian plane. If we're going to set it to 0, then they will be what I call that, what I call the point of origin. So it will appear at the in between the x and the y axis. Okay. So what if we're going to add another box here? Let's say yellow. Then you'll see, okay, yellow. Then you'll see it it divided, I mean it adjusted based on the remaining space. But if we're going to remove all of this, then you'll see it didn't appear. But if we're going to add flex here to 1, okay, still it seems that it didn't do anything here. Okay, so it's blue, red, and then the yellow. So they didn't appear because they don't have any content. So flex doesn't have a fixed width and height. So let's put back the width to 100 and the height to 100. And okay. So other properties for the justify content would be, so justify content as flex start, flex end, center, and then we have space between, space around, and space evenly. So let's try that. So let's say space between, so let's see what it will look like. Okay, so space between, so obviously there is a space in between our component, but space around, it has a bit of it has a it gives space differently. Then in space between, only the space at the there's a space or a gap in the components, but in the space around, it also add up another space even there is no component next to it. As you can see here, there is a space, and the amount of space is this one. As you can see here, it's much larger because it the space from the blue and then the space from the red adds up. That's why you'll see here it has a much bigger space here. And space evenly, so let's see. Yeah, so space evenly, so it will take the amount of remaining space and then divide it equally on all sides. So as you can see here, it's all the same gap. While while on the align items, it has several values as well. So for the align items, so we already had flex start, flex end, and center. So these values we can use. But align items has different, the remaining are different. So we have the stretch, and then the baseline. So we already have tested those three. So let's try stretch. Okay, so actually you'll see that it doesn't make any changes, but actually it stretches from top to bottom, so depending on the flex direction. Let's say, let's make this 50, I mean the height 200, then you'll see it actually increases. So let's say 50, and then it's too much, 40, or maybe 80. Okay, so stretch will actually, if we didn't set the value here for our elements, then it will most likely stretch from top to bottom based on the dimension that the parent took. So let's try to remove this. Okay, let's remove that and remove this and that. As you can see, if no height or width or dimension specified, and if we're going to use stretch, then the flex will automatically give the height and the width for that element based on their content and based on their parent dimension. So the width was obviously depending on the content, the size of the content. So if we're going to add let's say hello, then yeah, you'll see it it adjusted based on the content for the width value. But for the height, so obviously it changes based on the parent's height. That is if we are going to use the row flex direction. So what if we're going to change this into column? Okay, so now it changed differently. So now the width is based on the width will be is based on the parent's width, right? So on the row, it based the height to the parent, and the width is based on its content. But on the column, it based its width to the parent, while the height is based on the content. Um, so maybe let's try to make this long. Okay, yeah. So as what I've said earlier, on the column flex direction, the height will be based on its content, while the width will automatically based on the parent's width. As you can see, it took the whole screen because that's how it behaves if we're going to use the column. And that is if we did not specify the dimension for that element or component. Okay. So next one is the baseline. So baseline, it will actually align based on their alignment of their content. Um, so let's try to put back the width and height. Let's see what will happen. Okay. How about we remove it? Let's try to remove it. Okay, it's the same. Okay, 200. Then the height is 200. Okay, so far the baseline doesn't do anything here. Just because it will actually align. How about in row? Okay, so center, flex center. Okay, so far it doesn't um, show us the alignment, but mm, okay. Well, anyway, so that's it. So the value for the last value will be for the baseline. So same thing for the column. For the column, the for the flex direction column. So let's say um, column. The main axis actually changes. So if this is the component or the box, then the main axis is actually from the top to bottom. So there you go. So this is the main axis or the primary axis, um, while the cross axis now is from left to right. So it goes from here. There you go. And same thing for the column reverse. Column reverse. So the column reverse, the main axis is from bottom to top. But the cross axis is still from left to right. So this is the cross axis. Cross or secondary axis. And the main axis for the column is top to bottom. So main okay. So again, if we're going to set the column, the flex direction into column, now the main axis is from top to bottom. So if we're going to change the justify content, so again, the justify content is for the primary axis. So the justify content will change the direction of the primary axis, and the primary axis for the column is from top to bottom. So if we're going to set the flex start of justify content, then it will start at the top. So if I'm going to set the flex end, then the start will the end will be at the bottom. So flex end, so you'll see that it moves at the bottom. Will start, then it will start at the top. because the top is the primary axis, the starting primary axis for the column. So if we're going to set this to flow column reverse, then you'll notice that the column reverse okay, the column reverse, it will the starting point for the column reverse is from bottom to top. So if we're going to set the start, then it will start at the bottom, and end is like the end is the top. So for the column reverse, the flex direction, the align items or the cross axis is from left to right. So same thing for the column, the cross axis is from left to right. So if align items to flex start, then it didn't do anything because the start is from left. So if we're going to set it to end, then the end is right. Okay, so that's how we'll the basics of the flow direction of our flex. Okay, so maybe let's try to implement this design. So let's try to save this. Flex axes. Okay, so let's try to demonstrate on how our layout will look like if we're going to we're going to implement the layout based from this design. Okay, so right now in doing layouts, it's important to know which components you need to group. So maybe I am seeing two groups here in our layout. So this big image and then this title, we can group them into one so that we can have separate properties for them. And then the second group will be all of the fields here, that includes the text and then the password and then the bottom. So I'm seeing here two flex elements here. So let's try to change this. So two groups again. So the first group, it has an image. So image, and then maybe a text. And on the second group, we have input fields. So input text input. I forgot. So let's try to check that again on the components, and we have here yeah, text input. So text input. So text input, and then the button. So let's try to import them. Text input, and then button. Okay, so first So let's make the direction into column, and in the column it should start from the top. So and maybe the alignment will be center, or maybe stretch. Hold on. Let's remove this and set the flex. Let's say 2. Flex is 1, or we can make this 3. Okay. For the button title, login. Okay. And for the image, okay, so let's try to look for an image. So let's say 2. Okay, how about this one? And save it at the desktop. Assets, let's import files. And move it under the assets. So the source would be require asset. Okay, so we are seeing here style would be, let's say, with 100%. Okay, then the title is, let's say, welcome to my app. Okay, so for the flex, let's set the elements. Let's say flex direction will be column. Let's try 100. Okay. How about we set it to flex? Flex to 1. Let's see. Okay, good. Okay, so flex, so it took the remaining width for the screen. Maybe for the style for the text would be text align, let's say center. Okay, and so let's just remove this blue background for our, and maybe yeah, let's remove the red as well. Does it look nice? Okay, so and then for the text input, uh, okay, so maybe we'll just copy some of the styles here. um, yeah, style, okay, style equals to mm, border is one, what do you call that, the okay, so I'm just gonna have to copy this one. Okay, and maybe let's add a background color to maybe white. Okay, oops, let's add a thicker border with nice. Okay, okay, so let's just copy the first input. Okay, and how about for the bottom? So maybe let's change the background of the main view into blue, and let's add a margin for the bottom as well, so let's add also 12. How about margin here to 10. Okay, okay, all right, so so far it looks a bit decent, no? So we have actually created a layout based from our design. So again, this will only it will only take for you to repeat this task to make you familiar, so that you'll be able to be or will be able to be confident in building a new layout for or any layout for your application. So this looks a bit basic, but in the future I know you will be able to construct a much complex layout. So for now, so thank you for watching, and we'll just see you in the next lesson. Thank you. Bye bye.